there's either like a couple mindsets, like there's a growth mindset or like the doom mindset. Like you're like,
Mm,
AI's gonna take over the world. I'm not gonna have a job. There's no point. I'll just quit my job and go sailing or whatever it may be, or live in the forest. And then there's the other asset, like mindset of, or the other side of the aisle is like, right, well, now we have all this knowledge in a centralized area, and there's issues with it sometimes, yes, but it gets it right enough of the time where you can ask questions and learn. And so if you're curious about anything, it's really just an aggregation of the internet and different things. I mean, there's more
hmm
to it, but it's aggregating a lot of the internet knowledge, code base, books, research papers, internet blogs, whatever, and then it brings it to you. That's awesome. So you can ask whatever and get information consistently. Whereas before you might have to search for it, take a lot more time, but now you can ask questions and really dive in and understand. And if reading is not your thing, throw that into a notebook LM, make a podcast.
hmm
Oh, you don't like podcasts? Okay. Well, now you can make videos. You can make like 10-minute videos of like what you're trying to learn. And like, it's just insane, like how quickly you can learn and ask questions. Like I'd recently done like the New York compliance exam for like my broker's exam for New York State. It's like a 450 question exam. It's a lot of information, blah, blah, blah. None of it all makes sense, but I threw all the legislation into Notebook LM, made some videos, made a podcast, a couple. It's interactive podcast. You ask questions, and then made a question set of like a couple hundred questions that I think would have been covered, and then went through and did multiple exams a day, and that's how I studied, and I was able to learn much faster than you would typically, because typically you need some kind of guidance. And so like you can make your own learning tracks pretty quickly, like minimal effort, which if I were to do that myself, that would take me forever to make that big question set, like just to even make sense,
hmm
to even take on that challenge. So like just the way that you apply the technology is important, and the way you think about it and where it could help you is I think the difference maker in either like swimming and surfing the tide, or like bearing with it and just keep swimming, I guess.
Yeah, I do stuff like that too because AI is pretty good at shifting domains. So for some of the more complex specs that I'm building these days, I have had it write blog posts with animated versions of animated prototypes that will slowly step through the algorithm and say, hey, this is changing, and then this changes, and then this gets called, and it like does animations. And that's actually I've only recently started doing that. It's pretty cool. Um,
I'll write that down.
yeah,
That's interesting. I've
yeah,
never
because
done that
you can
before, and
ask
that's
for
the
it to
first
do
I've
it.
heard about that.
You can ask it to do anything. So, however, if you've ever seen something that really caught your attention, and is and like you couldn't stop reading it or you couldn't stop listening to it and you felt you were learning a lot, like try that format with the AI. Oh, the other point I was going to bring up is I think you mentioned AI is kind of an amalgamation of the knowledge on the internet, right? It is always a little bit out of date. Um,
Hmm.
and so, then its strongest knowledge is what is most commonly known. And if we're talking about knowledge, like process wise, it's different, but knowledge base, it will know the things that people write about the most, the best. Um, what's interesting is I think always the frontier of knowledge is the most interesting. And that's kind of where startups always operate. And so you want to try to get to the frontier in something in your career. Um, it can take a long time. That's what people in PhDs do, right? They keep studying and researching, and then eventually they get to the frontier and they move the frontier slightly. AI should help you get to the frontier faster, but you do have to realize it's not going to help you. It's not going to move the frontier by itself. You can't create a physics paper by just asking
Yes.
ChatGPT to write a physics paper, but it can help. But if you're knowledgeable about like where you sense it's getting to the end, it can help you get there much faster, get the basics, train you on the basics, and then suddenly you can write your own physics paper because you've like learned all the formulas that people know about today, and you also can like probe and understand, well, where is it not clear? That's probably actually an interesting area to do some research on my own.
Michael, that's a great point. Using AI to get you to the frontier faster. And like that's the goal in your career, trying to get to the frontier, or frontier of anything you want in your life.
hmm Yeah.
Using that to be a catalyst for growth, a knowledge growth, skill growth, to get to the frontier and push the frontier slightly. Be an innovator. Whatever you're trying to do, try to innovate, which is it's awesome.